not accurate 100%. He gave like his best guess. There is like a percentage of confidence here. In this case, is 100%, and a score of how confident somebody with these values would fit into this group and not in another group. Now, why is it important for to know the haplogroup? Because haplogroups are, in many cases, geographic specific. For example, individuals that belong to an haplogroup that is E3A are found mostly in Africa. Okay, I'd be interested to check the Rice Gray Y chromosome, see, if he has an E3 or if he's a European. Many African American have also European lines. We have also, I Scandinavian mostly. J is Middle Eastern. It's been linked also to a lot of Jewish groups. And I'm a K, which is also Middle Eastern. No, sorry, this is Y chromosomes. Talking about that. Something else. I'm actually a C. It's not even listed here, which is Asian. So I have a Y chromosome that is Asian. Don't ask me why. I'm trying to figure out that. Will be the next year presentation. R1A is Eastern Europe, and R1B is from Western Europe. It's very common in Western Europe. This is kind of like a tree of how all the different haplogroups are related from each other, like you saw before. This is where R1B is kind of like a sister clade to R1A, because one is found in Eastern Europe, the other one is found mostly in Western Europe. Now, you can find in both places, but that's where the highest frequencies are. And in most cases, where you find the highest frequencies, you think that's where it is indigenous of. That's where it came from, because he had more time, it's been there longer, and he had more time to create a larger number of people that belongs to that group. That is a frequency map for R1B. You see the two highest spots are right here in Iberia, in the Iberian Peninsula, and then also in the UK, both in Ireland, Scotland, and England and Wales over there. So that's the distribution. Again, this is based on the fact that we are assuming that Joseph Smith belongs to this R1B. This is the query I did before, just to show you again, all the people that matches his Joseph Smith genealogy, they all tie in back with Hazel Smith, who's the grandfather, and you see that the genealogy we got from these people, they all say England, but again, it's based on family search data. Okay, so based again on the assumption that it could have been from England. So this is what I did. So our database has 23,000, over 23,000 of this Y chromosome signature. I look at the 150 who are either exact matches or closest matches to Joseph Smith Y chromosome. And this is the distribution I found. 22 of these people are Smith because they are related to Joseph Smith through Hazel Smith. Same family, of course they match, okay? Now, 35 were from Ireland, 12 from Scotland, 8 from England. These are other surnames. These are not Smith. These are only people based only on genetic, that they match genetically, not by surname. 2 from Denmark, and then there were 72 others that did not have enough genealogy to go outside the United States, but many of these names were Max or O'Donnell, like a lot of Irish and Scottish surnames. Here you see what I told you, how many generations, how many years ago we can estimate a connection between the Smith line and some of these individuals in the database based on mismatches. So 34 out of 36 marker, we estimate a common ancestor 400 years ago, 33 out of 36, 600 years ago, and 32 out of 36, 800 years ago. Why is this important? It's because Robert Smith appears in America about 400 years ago. So we're trying to find a common ancestor with his line somewhere past that 400 years ago, okay? So I'm expecting to find not perfect matches, but close matches, because there's been so many years where this mutation could kick in. Okay, we're almost done here, so bear with me for one more, for a few more minutes. So here is just an example of a query page, like here we have matches from 90 to 100, and see how it is Irish, not a lot of English matches to the Smith haplotype. So is Joseph Smith's paternal lineage truly Irish? That's the question. So maybe it's not English, maybe it's Irish. How can I confirm that? There is another test you can do on the Y chromosome, which is called a SNP test, single nucleotide polymorphism. You look at specific changes in the DNA which are very, very stable over the years. They do not mutate very much. They're kind of like a genetic milestones. And we found that the Smith DNA tested positive for this marker called M222. This marker, see, this is the R1b we saw before. Now you can subdivide the R1b branches, smaller little teeny branches, and some of them have very specifically geographically. So these are all some branches of R1b. What are we doing here? We're increasing the level of resolution. You kind of, you have something is not focused, and you're trying to make a little bit more focus and calibrate a little more. And where is this marker found? Where this is the distribution of it. Where you find the darker red is where this marker is found at the highest frequency. It's found in Northwest Ireland and also a little bit in lowland Scotland, which makes sense since most of the matches that the haplotype we had and the genealogists match with Ireland and some with Scotland. Remember the matches that we had, and now we have also the genetic confirmation that this is the case. Also came across to this paper, was published a couple of years ago. Some of you might have heard of Niall and of the 9 hostages. Was a warlord of the 5th century, legendary figure from which about 5 centuries of Irish rulers came from. So essentially the whole royal dynasty between the 5th century and the 10th century could be a descendant of this legendary figure, Niall of the 9 hostages. Just like the Genghis Khan study, they think that the high frequency of this particular genetic signature in this area that's kind of like a speculation, but could be attributed to the fact that this royal family had a lot of posterity. Of course, if you have a lot of money, a lot of power, you can have a lot of children, I guess, one way or the other. That's what Genghis Khan did, and in Mongolia and in Asia. And so here we have in Ireland this very high concentration, and compared this reconstructed profile of this Niall of the 9 hostages to the Joseph Smith one, and found that it's very, very similar. Consider the amount of time that separate these two events. There are only 3 mutations, and there are only one-step mutations. Usually when DNA mutates, in these cases with DNA, it goes either up 1 number or low 1 number, and then after a few generations it can go low another number, so then you'll have 2-step mutation, okay? That means that it's farther distantly related. So here, very close. And so a lot of these surnames were those that came out in the query I did before. Just very interesting, like a very rare haplotype is found at 20% frequencies in Donegal, in this area right here. Before we saw that the marker, the haplogroup marker is found in this area. Now the haplotype is found in the same area. We have 2 genetic witnesses. Joseph Smith matched both of them. Seems to me, based on the data that I have, I like to propose an idea that perhaps this endangered servant, this 12-year-old boy, probably was of Irish descendant, perhaps only 1 or 2 generations before they were living in Ireland. And that this time, Irish, the struggles and the economy probably moved too long to England. Irish people were not viewed very well in England. Perhaps there was a surname change. So perhaps Smith is not Smith, was something else at some point. Name change, start working for this family. And the reason I say only 1 or 2 generations is that because we are not finding any Smiths in the area, they probably did not live in England as an Irish family for many generations, because otherwise they would have had a large posterity, and then you would find a lot of genetic matches, which you don't. So probably was something that happened fairly quickly. So this is kind of like my proposed theory, that Joseph Smith was probably not Smith at some point, and it was of Irish descent on the paternal line. Now I hope that doesn't change anyone's testimony here. I hope you feel okay about the Irish people. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. There is another genetic marker that follows the maternal line. I was able to find a sister of Joseph Smith that had a living female descendant that matches this kind of maternal inheritance pattern. We tested this individual. It's only one individual, but most of the time you're not sure about who the father is. You can be pretty sure about who the mother is. She carries the child around for 9 months. Or the husband is there maybe 5 minutes and then he's gone, buying some cigarettes or something, not coming back. So we're pretty sure about